blessing that we make when we light the Chanukah candles is a very interesting one. We praise God, She'asa Nisim Lavosenu, who performed miracles for our forefathers, Bayomim Hahem, back in those days, Bazman Hazeh, at this time. The phrase "at this time" could refer to at this season. This is the time of year when God performed those miracles that we're talking about, when the Maccabees defeated the Greek army, when the small jar of oil lasted for 8 days instead of for 1 day. But due to the ingenious drafting of the rabbis, at this time could also refer to at this time, nowadays, reminding us of all the miracles that God does for us in our lives all the time. I heard 2 stories recently that, when contrasted, show the difference between recognizing God's hand in your life and missing it. Story number 1. Billy Joel, the famous singer, was feeling burnt out, needed a vacation, and went down to the Caribbean to St. Bart's. He was single, so he was there alone. He's sitting in a restaurant, and he notices there's a piano in the restaurant, and no one's playing it. So he walks over, starts playing the piano, probably pretty well. After all, he is the piano man. And he notices after a minute or two that a few women have walked over, and they're leaning on the piano, listening to him play. But not just any women, 3 supermodels, one of whom was the most famous model in the world at the time, Christy Brinkley, whom he met then, started dating, and later married. So in the interview that I heard, Billy Joel was explaining how thankful he was. So he says, "I looked down at the piano, and I said, 'Thank you, thank you, thank you.'" To which I thought, why are you thanking the piano, Billy? If you want to give thanks for your talent as the piano man, don't thank this random piano, this inanimate object that you had never met before, that's meaningless in anyone else's hands. You're the piano man because of the time you put in and because of the talent that God gave you. You want to say thanks? Thank God. So in my opinion, his thanks were misplaced. Story number 2. I study with a rabbi in Israel 3 nights a week, and you can set your watch by him. We begin studying the Talmud at 10:05 p.m. my time, which is 5:05 a.m. his time. Later in his day, every day, he arrives at his yeshiva at 8:45 a.m. But one day, a few weeks ago, he was invited to or told about a bris that was taking place on one of the lower floors in his yeshiva at 8:50 a.m. Most people would have just gone straight to the bris, but not him. He's got 5 minutes. So he decides he's going to go to yeshiva from 8:45 to 8:50 and then go to the bris. He starts every day by saying some tehillim, some psalms, some extra prayers before he begins his Talmudic study. But this particular day, because he only had 5 minutes before the bris, he said, "I'm going to study the Talmud for those 5 minutes. Later in the day, I'll say some tehillim. I'll make it up." He studies for 5 minutes, goes to the bris, comes back up, and now when he comes back up, it's in the middle of the study day, and so he starts studying the Talmud. He forgets to say his tehillim. A couple hours later, at a break, his phone buzzes. He looks at his phone, and there's a text. The text is not from a number. It's from a sender with a name. The name is Pray Today. And the content of the text is HaTehillim Hayomi. Today's Tehillim are, with the numbers of the chapters of Tehillim that he's supposed to say that day. Freaky, unbelievable. He figures someone must have signed him up for this daily Tehillim reminder. And unbelievably, he got the first reminder on the one day that he needed it, the one day that he had forgotten to say Tehillim. But guess what? Since then, he hasn't received another text. It was a one-off, out of the blue, from an unknown sender, reminding him to say Tehillim on the one day that he hadn't said them. To him, it was clear. God missed those Tehillim. And so he had someone send that text message. I don't know who. Maybe Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, whomever it was. God missed those Tehillim, so he sent the message. And God sends us messages all the time. There can be miracles involving saving us from harm, miracles involving seemingly chance encounters, miracles involving exquisite timing when things happen. And if you're looking for God's hand, you'll see it then and you'll recognize it. That's God playing peekaboo, lifting up the curtain, letting us see a quick glimpse of him, reminding us that he doesn't just run the world, he runs our world, our individual lives. He's out there for us, loves us more than anyone. And so we have to look for him, find him, and thank him. Have a happy Chanukah.